So as you remember, when we model our walls, we're really just modeling our stud layer. And so now we're kind of at the point where we want to start to show the siding on the exterior. And this may get a little complicated, but there's a few different ways of doing this. The first is we can start by doing an extrusion. And when we have a wall like this, I'm going to go all the way to our corner somewhere, like this. And I'm just modeling a box like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to offset this outwards. And so I think there's kind of a couple different things with this. We have kind of a good, better, best way of doing this. So if you know that you're a more beginner user, or if you're just trying to do something fast, is maybe another way to talk about it. Let's just hide our floors here. And so we've got this little kind of extrusion we've done. When we have our exterior layers, typically we'll have sheathing, we'll have strapping, we'll have siding, and really in this wall we can maybe pretend there's no strapping, but that would be the reality. Another thing that you'll see quite often now is you'll put rigid foam on the outside of your building as well. So whatever this layer is, doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it 2 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete the interior of this. And I'm actually going to extrude this 2 inches up all the way around the building. And there's definitely some different ways to do this. I like this a lot because it starts to resemble an actual building. We have our stud layer, we have our exterior layers, and we can turn on and off that layer. This is going to certainly make your model a lot more complicated, so I'm just going to forewarn you about that. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to extrude this layer down. So if you remember when we had our floor, we actually have this hole where our sill plate would be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extrude this down to cover our sill plate, because that's what really you would do with siding. You'd bring it down to the bottom like that. And then over here on the garage layer, we would actually maybe come down even further. So what we can do is here we can add a little line across and extrude this down. Nope, I need to add a line on the other side. And let's add a line on this side, and we can extrude this down. The designer in me hates this detail, but hates this little drop here, but it's not that big of a deal. And so you would have this as kind of your exterior layers of your building. And the difficult part about doing this method, I think, is you're going to have to start cutting all your openings out as well. So that's going to be a little bit of work. But before we go too far, let's actually hide all of our layers, and let's group this into its own on our stairs here. We did not tag our stairs. Sweet, let's tag our stairs. So let's create stair 1. Must have been so excited about our stairs last time that we just did not tag them. And so we have our exterior layers. So let's call this exterior finish. Or maybe we can make it a group, I guess, and then let's add a new tag and we'll call this exterior finish. There's lots of different ways you could do this. I think another thought is you can extrude those walls out a little bit and then kind of clean them up within the same wall layer. But I kind of like having this layer separately because then you can pull it off. So let's turn on our first floor walls here, and we have some openings we created last time. And so what I can do here is let's open up our group for our extrusion, or for our exterior layers, and we can just trace this opening. And I actually, let's go from the bottom. So what I can probably do is make this really fast and do a box instead of. Now we can just extrude that through. So I mean, that didn't take really too long, to be honest with you. It just took a couple seconds, right? So, so that's the exterior layer, and so you want to do those openings on every part. Let's create another box around this opening, and we can extrude this one through. And let's just hide our first 4 walls and see what we did here. It also doesn't look like we tagged our window. Let's see our window here. Let's call this windows and doors. And let's add a tag for that window. You could separate windows and doors out too, up to you. And then let's just erase these. And it looks like we need to do intersecting faces. So intersecting faces with selection. So it actually is in the right click. Let's select that bigger. Intersecting faces with selection. And then we can remove these lines here. And then we just click our pointer button and we can delete our face in there. So that's kind of in a nutshell how to create these exterior layers, or this exterior wall layer. The other thing with this is we want to start adding finishes. And so I think there's a few different levels. I'll get to the siding thing if that's where you're going.
Oh no, I was going to say the
Yeah.
garage door.
Yeah, all the garage door. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about the garage door. Let's do. I'll skip the garage door. I mean, oh, sorry, I'll change my mind. I'll do the garage door quickly. I was gonna skip it, mainly just. Yeah, but it might not actually be too bad to do here. Look how fast I can. Sweet. So that's our garage door. So now that we have this, there's a few things we can do. One is we can kind of have a couple different levels of sophistication. So I think the first level is we have this exterior layer. There's a bit of depth with this. Let's just paint. Let's just add some textures to this and let's just paint it. So let's hide our interior walls. We obviously don't need to apply material to our interior walls. And let's find something here under wood maybe. So we've got this kind of, this dark board finish. With this finish, we could, I don't know if this one is the best one. We have other siding. There's another siding category. I'm not going to bring one in here, but what we can do with this is we can actually edit it. And we could change the color a little bit. So we can like lighten it up a little bit if we want to. And yeah. So there's some options with that. Okay, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I was just going to see if there's a way to rotate this, but I am not sure how to do that. So this is kind of like the first step in. It's like, okay, we have some finishes applied. It's kind of looking mediocre. Not super great, but better than nothing. The second method, I'm just going to hit Control Z a couple times here, is let's add some trim, because trim will make the building pop a little bit, but it won't be super detailed. So let's just go to our offset button here, and let's offset our walls. This is going to do all of our. Sorry, why is this extruding like that? All right. Yeah, so it's just going to do this opening. So I might just not do the offset. Let's just go 6 inches away, and 6 inches, another 6 inches, and bring that all the way down. And so by doing this, actually I have another way of maybe doing that a little bit faster, so let's try that in a second. But by doing this trim, and let's just bring this trim at 1 inch. So it's really not much of a bump, but it's just going to make your building look slightly better. It's not going to be like a crazy amount better. I'm just going to clean up these extra lines, but it will make it look quite like a decent amount better. So let's just do this on another one. Here, let's just go to this opening, and I'm just going to create a box in here, and this actually might work out really nicely. This one, actually, I might not need to do that. Let's try this again. Let's see if I can do this one just by off. The interior ones that don't touch the exterior face. No, that's not good. All right, let's just do the same thing again. And then we'll offset 6 inches. And so the one thing about doors is doors, and specifically this door, it goes down to a floor, a patio. So we're going to remove the bottom part of this trim because we just want to show top part like that, and we can just extrude these. And once you have one extrusion done to the right size, you can just use it as a reference like that, and then we can just delete our piece there. And so now when you go to apply finishes and materials, why is our materials grayed out? Oh, that's because I wasn't selecting anything. So now when we go to apply our materials, it's going to apply it to all the areas except the trim. And you can make the trim pop a little bit that way. So let's do the same thing we did. Let's maybe lower the color a little bit. And then for this other trim, what we can do is we can just apply like a blank wood texture to the trim, like this. And we can then tone down. And I'm not going to do the edges, but you probably want to grab all those edges around as well, just to make it look more cohesive. And so this is like so your first one is just applying a texture. So you have a texture, it just looks, even by extruding that wall around, you don't see those floor layers. So that's another big thing. Another big reason why I kind of wrap it is you don't see the floor layers of all those intersection points. So you can keep your model in a level of detail. We have that texture, looks like the building's got siding. Then we add the trim. So the trim makes the building look a little bit different. And what we can do here, we could just say we want white trim. And we'll just keep this wood texture on here. And bring this into the middle here. I don't really like the color wheel, to be honest with you. I think if all of these are 255, it's white. So you can just do a white trim like that. Black would be 0. So if you do them all as 0, they'd all be black. So just by adding that trim, and let's just turn back on some of our layers here to see what this looks like. Where are my tags? So let's just turn back some of these on. And just this building starts to look a little more real by having that trim, right? So kind of another good kind of step to go a little bit further. Probably the last one is actually extruding that siding piece around the edge. And so you may want to create this as a separate group. You may not, completely up to you. So let's, I might create this as a separate group just to keep my own sanity. So I'm going to close my group here. And what I'm going to do is we're going to create a bit of a profile here. So we're just going to start on one of the walls. Doesn't really matter where. We're going to go up a certain amount. So let's go up. I'm going to do a little bit of thicker siding, just again to keep my own sanity a little bit, so I don't have to model as many lines. So let's go up probably 7. Let's go up 7 inches. And the reason why I'm going up 7 is when you have siding, it's going to overlap a little bit. So probably really realistically it'll be like probably 6 3/4 is what the actual one is. I won't be too technical. We'll just call it 7. And I'm going to go out probably. I'm just going to go out probably 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to go down and make the bottom one 1 inch. So this is kind of our extrusion that we're going to go around our building with. And let's just go in here and grab all this and let's make this a group. I just love working with groups because it just keeps you organized and keeps, in some respects, you a little bit sane with what you're doing. So let's copy this up. And yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of thinking for a second here. So let's copy this up. We're going to use the move button. We're going to hit the control key, copy this up to there. And once we get a couple here, let's just do 3. And let's grab all 3 of these and copy these up as well. I think once you get a few of these copied too, it just goes really fast because now we can grab all of these. Also can't really see them anymore, but I need to copy it again. And where this is going to get complicated is what we're going to do is actually use the follow me button. But where this is going to get complicated is we have trim now, and we have openings. So we want to start and stop all this. But the cool thing about doing that is we have our intersecting faces. So we can just follow me all the way around and then use intersecting faces to actually cut all of these pieces. So it may not be so bad. So let's just go back here for a second. Let's just delete a couple of these. So we're not all the way to the top. And then the only downside of doing what I just did is we have these little lines here, and it may be easier to do this. Let's see if I actually can select, and let's see if I can follow me without a box. Yeah, so I need to have a path here, so let's create a path. Doing it on this side is not nice because it's not the same level. And bring it around this side. Keep missing that point. And then we'll bring it all the way back. All right, now we should have something to follow. Let's select all this. Let's see if we can actually follow me with all of these. I don't know if this will work or not. But if not, we'll just do one at a time. And again, it's a little bit time consuming, but yeah, it's going to make us do one at a time. But as you kind of get it to go around, me still on here. And I would just keep carrying this all the way through. And then once you do these, the bottom one I'm not going to do as far, obviously, because it doesn't actually go all the way through. So, but yeah, I'm not going to do all these, obviously, because it'll just be painful to watch me do that. But and the other problem is they're so small too. And then let's get them going this way. Yeah.
So I just followed me, basically, it kind of works the same as Photoshop pathing or Illustrator pathing, where you need to have a set guideline almost. So just kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's and what we were doing with the roof earlier today. It's really the same as that. And it doesn't seem to want to follow me all the way through here. But once you have this set up, now what we can do is we can actually just trace this box. We can extrude this box through. And we can select all of the stuff that you see here in the screen. And we can go to intersecting faces with selection. And then we can just erase a bunch of this. And so it'll stop our siding. And really what I should have done actually was stop our siding. Maybe I did actually. Looks like I did. So we want to stop our siding at our trim. Maybe I didn't. But we should have done this actually. Yeah, I did do it that way. Let's do this. Let's just remove these. So let's do a box this time, but we're going to do the outer edge of the trim, not the inner edge. And let's extrude this in. And then let's select all of this. And you can probably do all this at once. So once you create all your openings, you just create all these boxes everywhere. You can just extrude them all in, intersecting faces all at the same time, and then just delete a whole bunch of stuff, right? So it is a little bit time consuming, but it looks really good, right? And just makes your project look a lot more intense and more sophisticated. So, and we can also just turn off a bunch of our layers here.
I assume same theory can happen if you want to do brick as well.
Yeah, yeah, you could do something like this as bricks. Bricks are a little different, but I actually don't have this in a group yet, so I probably should have just actually did this to see it all. But so when we actually go through, and then we turn everything back on again, you can see that starts and stops at that trim piece. So again, a little bit of work. This is kind of how to do it. What you could also do over here is before you extrude, and this is probably something that will make a lot of sense to do, is if you just delete this little line here, it will make it, you can probably extrude all of this around at the same time. So again, just more tedious work. But if we do the follow me, and we grab this, it's going to grab a whole bunch of it all at the same time. And move the opposite direction that we want it to go. Let's try to follow me again. And did I click the one that wasn't part? Yeah, I did. Sweet. Yeah, so I might have deleted that bottom line. Oh no, it seems to be. I think because I stopped here once, it's like being weird here. Yeah. So anyways, if you remove that line, you can extrude more at the same time. And probably what I should have done is hid all of this exterior stuff and just make this a cleaner box. Let's actually see if we can extrude the other direction. Maybe that might be easier. And it looks like it removed a few of these lines here. But let's see if you can follow me this direction. That might be better. No, it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to because the object is the other corner. So yeah. Anyways, but that's essentially the practice is creating this extrusion, mapping it all the way around, and then if you need to add a new opening, you create that box around the trim. You extrude that box through, you find all the intersecting faces, and then just delete all the stuff. So it's a bit of work, but I spent 26 minutes doing that, but we were kind of fooling around a little bit. And I think you could probably do that a lot faster. Well, actually, I also did the other layers too, right, with the trim. And so I think you could do that a lot more efficiently, and probably within like an hour or two, you probably could get all that, if not less time around the building. So that's how to start doing trim. That's how to start doing exterior wall layers. I think the other thing, by having this kind of blanket around the building, again, you hide all your floor and you hide all those connection pieces, but when you cut through this building in section, you still see all that detail and still see all that interesting stuff. So yeah, that's how to model walls. So.